question. Gentleman right at the back, just behind the man. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Thank you, Lucy.
Hello. I want to change the tone slightly. You've given a lot of advice about what IT should do, but sitting on the board, what would you like your colleagues to change in their behaviours, their attitudes, their values as you go forward in the partnership?
Well, I will answer that historically. So, this does not, to be very clear, refer to any current colleagues. I think to be realistic in terms of requirements, but I think that's, this is all about two-way communications. And I think it's really important that one understands where one's colleagues are coming from in terms of what they need. We're in the middle of not particularly good economic times. It's really tough out there at the moment. If you're the CEO or commercial director of a company, you're under tremendous pressure to deliver. And if you're quoted on the stock exchange or you're owned by investors, you're almost under weekly, quarterly, pressure to deliver numbers. So, the demands on them are tremendous. And I think you need to recognize that. So, in asking people to be realistic in terms of what technology can do, which is, I think, the answer to your question, which is, to be realistic, I think it's important to explain what the realities are, and why things can't be instantaneous and why they're not cost-free. But I think you need to recognize then why people are demanding. And actually, it's a great place to be. If people are demanding, technology and improvement, at least you do know you're on the key agenda. So I think it's understanding, but I think in asking for understanding, you've got to explain what the situation is.
Thank you. And next question, the lady halfway back. Yes, no, you're not a lady. Just on your left, Emma. Oh, sorry, you put your hand up for this gentleman. I understand now. You're trying to confuse me.
I was getting moral support.
Oh, jolly good.
Having you ask questions from the front and the back, nobody from the middle. So
we have now.
Thank you. Charles Hughes, eManagement. Paul, you are in a job which strikes me as being extraordinarily powerful. You have got information and data about so many people, often in great depth. You could link it with the CCTV footage from the stores. You clearly have financial information about people, and you have a duty of care for all that information. You also have, with the technology and excellent IT team at your disposal, a lot of oomph if you were choosing to implement a whole range of interesting applications to understand people's lives somewhat better. You talk correctly about technical standards. I wonder whether in the context of what we have and what's developing, whether you have a series of ethical standards as well. If so, how do you develop them and how do you promulgate them to the team?
Question. A really important question. I think we as custodians of people's personal data and information have to be exceptionally careful about it. As my colleague Pauline there, who when we were working together was in charge of IT security at British Airways, can confirm, you absolutely do have to have the highest standards. And that's not about, everything points you in the same way. You're absolutely right. As a customer of, John Lewis and British Airways, and indeed many other things, I expect, my personal data to be absolutely protected and safeguarded. Commercially, if things go wrong, you lose trust. And actually, the most important thing, and I think this is absolutely, see, United broke my guitar, The most important thing in terms of customer relationships at the moment is people trust you. They do trust you in an airline, to fly, and they trust you to be treated ethically, and that the prices you get from John Lewis are fair and are never knowingly undersold. So that's key. And if those two incentives weren't enough, there are then ferocious laws that actually bear down directly on the Chief Information Officer in a very personal way, and indeed other senior executives that require you to do that. Absolutely, and Kevin, who is of much longer standing than me in John Lewis partnership, can answer this much better than me. But the whole ethos of John Lewis is actually founded on respect for the partners who work there, and indeed the customers that we serve, and that is a key element. And I know that the nature of the company we have is that people try and take that very, very seriously. So you're right, we are custodians of an awful lot. I can assure you that the degrees of integration that you outlined at the start of your question are certainly not available to me as we speak at the moment.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious that we're way over schedule, and it's an absolute testament to Paul that the place is still packed. However, just two more questions, if I may. Where are we? Ah, yes, lady here. Thank you. Avi, could you whiz that round? Thank you. Just a little bit further on. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I'm quite grateful to be asking the question before I drank the entire glass of wine. I was getting a little worried then. My question is this. There are few companies who are not completely reliant on technology, and yet it's very rare to find a CIO on the main board of a company, and frequently they don't even report directly to the main board. They actually report through the CFO. And that's still something that's happening nowadays, and I find that in so many of the companies that I consult at. And I was just wondering why you think that is, and what a CIO can actually do in a company to ensure they're not just seen as a necessary evil and someone who just comes and brings them bad news.
Well, the short answer is buy 50 things I wish I did. In terms of why, I don't think we should angst too much necessarily about reporting position, and it is something that if you did a search on it, you would find a lot of column inches around. It does depend on each company. I think the core thing is to not to worry so much about the reporting line, but to understand the role. And I think I could try and think of examples of where people have transformed the company from positions which were not necessarily on the main board. Actually, I've got one. I was desperately trying to think of one while I was saying that. But Charlie Mayfield, who, as you know, is the chairman of John Lewis Partnership, I think joined late 90s, and he was business development manager. And he had the vision to see that actually buying a website, buy.com, which he bought the complete license for, had the potential to transform the company. And he did it, not as CIO, not even, there. So, and, look where he is now, So I think it's the role you play. So I'd really absolutely urge, and, I had a bigger role in British Airways for the last 2 years in a different reporting position. So it doesn't necessarily correlate. Clearly it helps, but it's not the only thing. And I think it's really important that people don't get too fussed by the org chart, but they do get fussed by, am I on the agenda, the strategy agenda, and are people listening, and how can I get people to listen? And I think that's more important. And, I think you can do great things from all sorts of places.
Thank you, Paul. And for our last question, gentleman at the back, just here on your right, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick John, Prudential. Firstly, thank you for a great presentation, very insightful. We share a lot of common ground, probably 99%. However, we differ potentially on the cloud being one for the future. The recent Amazon incident has made me reevaluate that strategy conceptually. What's your view?
I disagree, I think, which is not to say don't go and stick your customer data in a very open site, somewhere you don't know where it is around the world. See the point about protecting customer data. I think most people know in IT that the airline industry created global distribution systems. Sabre, Amadeus, Galileo, WorldSpan. They still all exist. Alas, the airlines flogged them for money. But they were effectively, in my view, meet a definition of the cloud, i.e. they're hosted at a remote location. So Munich or Tulsa or Atlanta, you pay for usage. So you pay whatever it is, 95, it isn't actually the price, but 95 cents per passenger boarded for the reservation and check-in. That, to my mind, is a cloud before the internet was invented. So I don't think there's that new about the cloud. But the point about those was they were originally owned by the airlines, so we felt secure about where they were. We were collectively, because they were provided for 100 plus airlines now, able to enforce security standards and to test them and to make sure that they were appropriate. We were able to, we had confidence in using them. Absolutely, I'm not saying we should all go and stick everything on the cloud. No way should we ever do that. I think I'd suggest that people thought about whether they can build private clouds or industry clouds. I think there's some merit there, like the airlines. I think there's also merit in thinking about testing systems. If you buy enough kit to actually run your online releases on a whole load of servers that you've got in-house, that's going to cost you a load of money. If you can hire that by the hour and use that as test data, and you don't put anything that you don't want out there, that's a smart use of the cloud, in my view. So if you took it as cloud now, everything, no way. You've got to be smart about it. You've got to be careful. You've got to be secure. So I hope we're not too far apart.
Thank you very much. And I have one thing that I'd like to do just before we all disappear. And this is a very small, I found as I've received it, Roman coins are very small. This is a Roman coin that I'd like to present to you. And it
Thank
is,
you.
in fact, just before you go, it is Trajan.
Yes,
is that correct?
Trajan.
Yes,
Yes.
Trajan.
My favorite emperor.
Oh, wonderful.
Good.
And as you know, he was sole ruler of the Roman Empire at the age of 45, so no mean achievement. However, he wasn't your average Roman Empire. He was benevolent, sincere, indulgent, generous, patient, yet just, firm and decisive. Thank you, Paul Coby.
Very kind.